So again, welcome everybody. I came across this image, I was like, perfect. It's about welcoming. And if you know me, or if you've ever been around the church during the week and walked past my office, you may see me talking to somebody or out in the hallway meeting people or somewhere else greeting people. Oop, wrong way. Nope. Need to move to my stuff. Oh, there it is, sorry. Will I ever get it right? But you may see outside my door, there's a sign with my name on it, and then underneath that there's a sign that says Safe Zone. This is a safe place to talk about. And then there's this whole list that goes on, and at the end it says anything else. That's part of welcoming, is always being a safe place for others. And that's part of my ministry, always has been, is to, even before I got into ministry, but when I was a layperson, part of my ministry was always to be welcoming and sharing with others and open to them and having conversation about whatever is going on that day or whatever needs are in somebody's life. I didn't necessarily see that as a ministry, but when I started to tell people I worked with previously, I'm going to go to seminary and do this, oh yeah, that's perfect for you. That's what you do. But it's what Jesus is telling us all to do. The passage today is really about two things, or the passage is hospitality and humbleness. And often when we think of hospitality, we think it's like this image on the upper left there. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, bring snacks to share on Sundays through September 1st, after service hospitality. And we have punch on the patio, we have coffee hour, and we think about stuff like that being hospitable, offering the goodies to people, and that is being hospitable. But they're talking about so much more, about going deeper. And the same thing with humbleness. We have this image of a person who has knelt on the road to pray to God, and they're being humble in that moment. But the passages today are talking about a bigger humbleness. Kind of doesn't match there, bigger, humble. But it's about living your life in a humble way, not just being humble to God, but with each person that we meet each day. Jesus uses the example of the wedding banquet, or the party that this person is throwing. And we've all been to those things, right? And you know, there's always, if it's a long table like this, who's going to sit where? Or they've already told you, the little cards to the left of each plate, I think, have the names of the person who's supposed to sit there. And anybody who's ever worked on planning a wedding knows the seating chart is like one of those big headaches, right? Who sits where? But it's something we don't often think about. It's like, oh, there's my friend. I want to go and talk to them. We go and we sit next to somebody in a place where we know we're going to be welcomed, in a place we know this is somebody we know and we can chat with for a while. But think about what would happen if they said, no, I got to talk to this person today. I need somebody else to sit next to me. We all understand that, but it also gives you that little, okay, now I got to go find something else. So Jesus uses this common idea, this metaphor that everybody can grasp about where do you sit when you go to something. Do you put yourself in the best seat? That's not being humble. And he says it point blank to them. Just imagine how you're going to feel when they say you need to move. But think about it the other way. If you are humble and you take a lower seat, you can be raised up by the simple words of somebody saying, no, come and sit next to me. No, I want you in this place where I can interact with you, this place of honor. It's something that we do every day, and we often don't even realize what we're doing. One church I served, I had a few people who were very popular in the church, who every time, by the time I would get to coffee hour, their table would be filled with people, and they would have these conversations going. And one day they said, you never sit down and talk to us. you've been here a year and a half and we don't know you. It's like, well, you've always got somebody else there. You seem like you're deep in conversation. I said, well, make the move. We want to talk to you. And I say, that's not my place to make somebody else move. But it's that idea. We all can kind of understand that concept. And that's the way Jesus taught us so often, with the simple ideas that you can grasp if you just look at it through the lens he's showing it to you in. The second part of that message this morning is this hospitality piece. And he continues this idea of the party, the big party, the metaphor of inviting everybody in. But he says to them, remember, when you throw a party, don't just invite your friends and the big shots who might be able to do something for you. Be hospitable and remember the people who never get invited. Remember the average folks who would probably love to be there but aren't dare going to walk in because they don't think they're welcomed. Make them the ones that you welcome. And on here, I don't know if you can see the image, it says, I wish they wouldn't look at me that way. It's a woman standing in line and she's reaching for her EBT card. She's on food stamp program, basically. The metaphor doesn't just apply to the parties. That idea of being welcoming to people who you may not normally think about. Don't be the impatient person behind her in line as she's struggling to pay. Don't be the one who's always putting pressure on other people. Oh, get out of my way, I'm better than you are. Be the one who's understanding and inviting in some way. Again, simple messages, but sometimes we just need to be reminded of them because we get so busy in life going through the day, oh, I have to get to A, B, or C. When somebody wants to stop and talk to you, you're like, I'm too busy right now. Sunday morning for a pastor, please don't try to talk to me Sunday morning. But it happens, and it's hard for me sometimes to stop and turn to give the person my attention because I'm so focused on where I need to be, what I need to be doing in my mind to get ready. But if you're humble, you realize that that person is just as important as what you're getting ready to do. Take a moment to give them the time. Oh, I thought it was funny that this is at a place called, or this is an advertisement for a place called Joy Junction in Albuquerque. This is part of a whole series of advertisements they were doing to express this idea in the community. That idea of giving of yourself. Have any of you ever heard of a potlatch? It's a tradition, a cultural part of the Northwest Coast tribes. The Salish and the whole bunch of names I can't pronounce really. But this is a picture from 1900 at a place called Alert Bay, and it's the Kwakwaka'wakw. I think I got that close. Or a lot of people may know them as Kwakiutl. That's how they've been described most of the time in English. But these folks have a tradition that somebody will say, I'm going to throw a party, and the entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody, works for a year to make blankets, to buy stuff, to build to create pottery, collect everything they can, including these things they call coppers, which were big pieces of copper that were formed into shapes only to be broken during this party. The point was to give away everything you had. And these are piles. You can see all those stacks of blankets, all those dishes and everything else lined up there on the shoreline, and more. One person gave that away at this potlatch. In return, they get the honor. They are seen as, this is a person who cares about the rest of the community. He doesn't ask anything, he just gives this away. And amongst these tribes, this is a way to establish that you are one of the leaders. a head person in the community, because you don't keep for yourself, you give away everything you have. You invite everyone to this party, the potlatch, which can go on for days. Outsiders looking at it say, this is so destructive. Around this time, this was actually illegal at the time. In the 1880s, the government of Canada outlawed potlatches, because every time one happened, all the workers at the canneries, there was a big salmon producing place, most of the cannery workers were Native Americans, they would just go away for a couple of days and go to this party. And it would close the canneries. It would create some kind of upheaval in the community, because everybody is changing who's in charge now. This person has given the potlatch, so now we give them the honor instead of the old chief. And the government of Canada was like, wait, you can't do this. You're messing up our ways. They weren't being very hospitable. They didn't understand the culture and the traditions of the people where they lived. But I've always thought of the potlatch as a great concept for Christians to think about. That idea of giving completely of yourself. It's hard for us to do in our society. It's not something that's our mindset. But among these people, that was typical. That was what was expected. My first year in ministry, I was appointed to a place called Rockefeller UMC, and you can see that there kind of in the middle of the image, right over here. Irwin First was another church I served while I was in the city of Syracuse, and so was University Church. So I kept moving down the street. The distance from Rockefeller to Irwin is 9/10 of a mile, and the distance to University is another mile. 3 Methodist churches within 2 miles of each other. Interestingly, the parts that are shaded, go back. There we go. All this in here is Syracuse University. This is the academic campus. This is sport fields, and this is not officially student housing, but they have a contract with the university to provide housing for the students. So there's this entire complex that went up in the last 10 years. That's all student housing, basically. And all this area in here is kind of the student ghetto area. Not every single house, but sometimes 5 or 6 houses in a row are just students that are living off campus. So you can see these 3 churches have great potential to reach the student population. In this event we held August 29th, 2013, so just about 6 years ago, these churches, along with The Road, which is a church without a building, at the time it was a church just of people that came together to feed the hungry and to do things in community. They got together and we said, let's welcome the students back. We have how many thousand students coming in to a Methodist university, which Syracuse is. We should be interacting with them. So we contacted the people on campus, and Hendricks Chapel is up in that top green shaded part. And we all got together and said, let's throw a big block party for the students, and we'll invite them in, and we'll get to know them, and we'll make all these great connections. And we had it, and Hendricks Chapel had their table, and my church had their table, and here's down in the bottom left is the pastors for university and another church in the city that was further away. Our DS is in that picture on the right, and a couple more pastors that were involved in the city. It was this great event, this big party we were throwing, and we invited all those students. And we got 2. But we also invited the community. University Church, which is where we held it in their parking lot, is on one side of it is Genesee Street, and you go up the hill to the university. And on the other side, you go down the hill, and the economic standing goes down very quickly. There are a lot of houses in disrepair, a lot of people who are really in need. And University's church kind of sits on that boundary line. So we went out and we handed out flyers in the community as well, saying, sure, we're going to have this big party, come on over. We wanted the students. That was our focus. They didn't come. But the community came. They came and we had a DJ and we had music. We had free food. We had people dancing. It was a great event. And afterwards, we started thinking about it, and we're like, we failed miserably. We only got 2 students who came by, and they only came by because they lived in an apartment building right next to the church, and they were walking by and said, oh, look, free food. And in fact, they were Korean students who already went to the Korean Methodist Church, which was actually in Irwin, so that was good. But the point was, we also invited the community kind of as an afterthought. And that was a success. The people weren't the ones that we thought could do something for us. We wanted the students. Wouldn't it be great to establish this community with the students? And here's all these other, we'll invite them too. It became a huge success because the community came. The kids danced and had fun, and University Church picked up a bunch of new people who lived right around the corner and had never thought to go to that church. Because if you've ever seen University, it's this giant stone imposing edifice that looks like a castle. And these are people who are used to going to the, if they went to church, it was the little church on the corner that had broken chairs and things like that. This big, tremendous place, the bedrock of the Methodist Church in the city, it's only around the corner, but that's not a place for us. Well, now they know it is. And now that church's congregation has grown because the local community shows more interest in it and people come. But they were the afterthought. They weren't the target audience. They weren't the ones that are going to raise the prestige of the church if we get all these students in. They won't go out into the rest of the world and take the story of University Church with them. All this was not the only point, but all these were ideas that went around in creating this party in the first place. The Road was the one who knew who to invite. They were the ones who said, let's go to the community. We don't have a building, but we'll go out into the community. They were the ones that really understood Christ's message more than the Bedrock Church. I mean, University does great things, and I love the place, I love the people, but the Road were the ones that said, we don't need a building, we are the church in the community. And we invite everyone in. So they really were the key to this success. We're doing the same thing this week. We have the Lord's Acre Fair. All this work that has gone into it, a lot of hospitality in a lot of ways. But what is our goal in doing it? How much opportunity will we have to see people come by our tents and our booths and say to them, more than just thank you for participating, thank you for your money, how much opportunity do we have to say thank you and welcome? We'd love to see you on Sunday. Thank you and welcome. Do you want to help us next year? What can we do? What else can we do for you? It's the perfect opportunity to show that humbleness and the hospitality, and to be more than just a place where people come to buy things. To be the church amongst them as thousands of people walk through our property this week, and let them know the heart of what this church is about. You couldn't ask for a better opportunity. And we've seen that. The smiles on people's faces, these people all responded, well, not the guys on top, they responded to volunteer too, but that's rebuilding the fire pit outside. The effort of volunteers to do that. But all the other pictures are people at I think it was the second or third pre-sale. I walked into rooms and said, would you mind if I take your picture? I might put it up on the Facebook site. And people did things like this. They posed for me. They laughed and they smiled. They had such a great time being here. And asking them to be just in our picture got such a wonderful response. The fair is a great opportunity to ask people, be with us. Not necessarily, oh, you have to come to church on Sunday, but just, this is a wonderful place, you should explore it some more. Look at all these people that came here and are volunteering their time, and all the time we did all summer, because we love you. every one of you that walks through this property this week. That's what Jesus said to us all when he came to communion. And we're going to have the opportunity to share in that meal today. And as you come forward, think about the hospitality and the humbleness that were part of what he offered that night. He invited all his disciples to join him, even the one that he knew was about to betray him. Actually, even all of them that he knew were about to run away from him. He could have sat at that meal and said, yeah, you're all going to do something. Why should I offer you this? But he didn't. He lowered himself and said, come, eat with me. Join in my meal. We think about it today and we think about how he was raising himself up. We remember him. We have the meal. We thank God for Jesus. But in that moment, he knew what was coming. And he didn't say, you better remember me. He said, here's some food. As we join in this meal, and every time you eat, remember me. Think about me and what I taught you. Not worship me, not raise me up as your king, not come to my defense tomorrow. Everybody go out and get swords tonight because they're going to come and get me. He gives himself up for them. Let that be in our minds as we come forward this morning. Hospitality and humbleness. Amen.